That's right. It's time once again for the Kaufman Corner podcast. With you, as always, David Lesky from Inside the Crown. Les Norman, former Royals outfielder, host of Breaking the Norm, and Soren Petro. With you from Sports Radio 810 WHB. We are going to break down the top 10 position players for you. It's our gift. It's Thanksgiving, right? Enjoy the food with your family. It's not Thanksgiving for us, okay? But we went out of our way to go ahead and record another Kaufman Corner podcast so you can have fresh content. So look, hopefully you're not getting to this till Friday because you're enjoying time with family and friends like we are doing right now around Thanksgiving. But if you're, in-laws or your relatives are driving you absolutely crazy, congratulations. We gave you a brand new, fresh edition of Kaufman Corner for you to just sit in the bathroom and act like you're not feeling good and enjoy a little bit of Royals baseball. We do it right now. Our top 10 position players coming up here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Les Norman is a former Royals outfielder. He's the host of Breaking the Norm with Les Norman on Sports Radio 810 WHB, as well as the author of Teaching the Tools of Hitting. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro.
All right. Thank you very much, Curtis. We'll get things started. First of all, happy Thanksgiving, guys. I can tell you look a little bloated, full of turkey, stuffing, gravy.
Wait a minute. Didn't we already say we were hang on?
It is a little before Thanksgiving, but this will air on Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. We hope you're having a great holiday season and look forward to getting back live when we get done with the holidays. But instead, we thought we'd put together our top 10 list, all-time Royals, top 10. And let's get things started. At number one, we'll go top to bottom. I will give our consensus. I basically did it like it was a top 25 and assigned a point value, basically 10 for 1, 9, 8, so on. So we'll get our consensus. Doesn't change too much when there's only 3 of us, but I think it's kind of interesting to note as well. Les, let's start with you. Up at the top, you really kind of turned things upside down and went Billy Butler. This is amazing, but you want to go ahead and defend taking Billy Butler over George Brett?
I didn't take Billy Butler over George Brett. No, not at all.
We all have George Brett, right?
Yes.
Like, we even said, good.
I thought about Navy Perez.
Yeah.
And I decided. Burrow is number 4. But I thought about.
If you took those two, David, then I better have made your list. For a year and a half in the big leagues, I should made your list if those two are on the list, and I wouldn't even have qualified.
You're right ahead of Angel Burrow, right behind Navy Perez. So
yeah, I like it. I think that's a good call. No, we all have George Brett. Listen, one of the greatest hitters of all time. We even said, we don't even really need to say anything. It's obvious. Like nobody has come to get to George Brett. So we've all got him number 1, but I do think the one thing we can say about George Brett just kind of takes us into where we are at number 2. That is, there's a guy on the team that actually has a chance to challenge George Brett one day, right? We would all agree that Bobby Witt Jr. has that chance unless you do have him at number 2 on your list. Obviously, this is a little bit of projection in how you did this, but why Bobby Witt at number 2? Because David and I have him down at number 3. Oh, we lost Les's sound there. Did you get muted, Les? Did you click a mute? Okay. All right. Well, this will be interesting. No audio.
If anybody can, if we can lip read here, you got to watch the video for this one. But
yeah. We've lost the audio. Okay.
It's not ideal for a podcast.
No,
it's not ideal.
No, it's not ideal. But we'll see if we can get Les's audio worked out there. It's been a technical challenge, I will tell you that here today.
It's been a day.
It has been a day. But Bobby Witt, I think he's got a shot at being as good as George Brett, David.
Oh, 100%. And these lists are so interesting because it's sort of like the MVP vote. It's what are your criteria? What is the goal here? Is it to say the guy who will be the best? Because arguably, if you ask who's going to be the best, Witt might be number one.
Yeah.
I mean, because I do think he has a chance to challenge. It's we both had him at 3, so it's not like we're looking at Les's list and going, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
He has Bobby Witt at 2 after 4 years. No, it's a very reasonable ranking, and I think a lot of people would say that says more about the Royals than about Bobby Witt, and I completely disagree. Bobby Witt he finished 4th in the MVP, but this year, 2nd last year. This is a perennial superstar player. He deserves to be in the conversation with George Brett.
Les, do you think he'll have a shot at topping George Brett one day?
Well, first of all, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yay! Please hold.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'll just let you guys know if it goes out again, I'll just step out from my technical difficulties and I'll let you guys finish. So just let me know if it goes out.
You bet.
But I had Bobby Witt Jr. 2nd, only because it was projection out of a 17-year span. I think George was it 20 or 21? What was George's full season?
He played in parts of 21 seasons, but it was 20 years, really.
Yeah.
So 20 years. So I just projected Bobby out around 17. I gave him maybe a sprained ankle issue, even though I don't want to put that out there, but it's tough playing shortstop and playing every day, and he's on a pretty good pace. So I projected him out about 1,600 RBIs, close to 450 home runs. I'll back that off to 400 just because if he has an off year or something like that. I had him at over 3,000 hits. I had him at 629 stolen bases, and then so say 600, and then all of the awards he's already won. And even in a down year for him, to win a Gold Glove, a Platinum Glove, 4th in MVP voting in a down year, and 25 years old. I mean, that's crazy. So I have no qualms about putting him at number 2 and maybe one day challenging for the number 1 spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at it in the kind of power that he has. I mean, he projects out to have more power than George, right? He is a guy that puts bat to ball. He's led the league in hits twice. I'm choked up just talking about him. But I think he's got a chance to have some amazing counting stats, like the only guy because he's off to such a great start at such a young age. He's got a chance to put up some really big numbers and be there. So, yeah, the question always is when a guy starts losing his legs, does he transfer it into power or does he grow old fast? Bobby Witt's an elite athlete. I think it translates into power, and he'll quit stealing bases, but then I think you'll start seeing him, attack the home run more. And, we could be talking about a guy who pushes, Chipper Jones-esque, right? Like that he maybe pushes over to third base and becomes more of just a pure power hitter over there. So, yeah, I think the ceiling is that he could one day be the number 1 player on this list. And he's the second guy, I think, since George Brett that you could say that about. Carlos Beltran was the other guy that had a chance. Had he been a Royal the whole time and with his ability, Carlos Beltran had a chance, but he didn't quite get there. So,
So real quick, one thing that I looked at, I put their Baseball Reference WAR and their Fangraphs WAR. I averaged it, and then I did it over 5,000 plate appearances because a lot of people, if you guys had more, if you guys had less, I thought 5,000 was a good even number. WAR per 5,000 plate appearances: Bobby Witt Jr. 44.5, George Brett 37.2.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, and look, we haven't gotten the decline of Bobby Witt. George Brett's got the whole career. Yeah. So he's all on the upswing right now, but it's not even close, actually. if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
He could be on the upswing for 6 more years.
Oh yeah,
at
for
least.
sure. I mean, he's
So,
only 25.
right.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that could be
aging
8
curve.
years of an upswing.
Exactly. You're looking at 32 before he starts to decline. 33.
Number 2 on our list, David. You and I both have Amos Otis. Why'd you go Amos Otis number 2?
I mean, truly, Amos Otis. First of all, one of the most underrated players in franchise history. It's funny you say that, and I feel like he's number 2 or 3 on all these lists. So maybe he's actually not, but I think he's forgotten. But I mean, I didn't get to see him play. I was not born yet. You guys were very young when he played. So
I remember playing. I actually was in the stadium going "Ayo, ayo" as a kid. So.
I've heard all the stories, and I wish that I had been there. But you watch highlights, and I talk. My parents talk about him all the time, and it was like he didn't run; he glided in center field, and was just a great defender and a hitter. And I mean, you look at the numbers. 118 weighted runs created plus, 18% above average with that defense. I mean, he's just a great player. And the reason that I had him ahead of Bobby Witt, and I don't know what the date is that this changes, but Witt's got 4 years, AO had 14 years. And so in my mind, that was enough to say, okay, at this point, if we do this again in 2 Thanksgivings, I think Witt probably passes him, maybe even next Thanksgiving for me. Mm-hmm. But I just, in my head, that was just enough. 10 years difference, 10 more years is a lot for me. AO was just a great player, and he needs to come up more often when people talk about great Royals.
Yeah, 3 Gold Gloves. He was a 5-time All-Star, finished top 5 in the MVP. I think if you're a young Royals fan and you don't know who Amos Otis is, I hope if you get anything from this podcast, it's to go look up Amos Otis' career, because it was phenomenal. He was the guy that threw the ball to Ray Fosse when Pete Rose ran over Ray Fosse in the All-Star game, just to give you a little nugget of the history that's there with Amos Otis. But he was a great, great baseball player, and doubles, the perfect Kauffman Stadium type of player that was out there. So we went Amos Otis at number 2, and Bobby Witt at number 3. You, Les, have Amos Otis at number 3, right? So we
for all the same reasons. I mean, I don't need to spend.
Why do you hate Amos Otis?
Let me tell you why I don't hate Amos Otis. I think he's wonderful. He's a great guy, but we're talking about on-field stuff. I mean, I could just rattle through the stats. It's the exact same thing that you guys say. It's interchangeable. Bobby Witt would climb. And, it's not like AO on my list is dropping. It's just there's a generational player in Bobby Witt Jr. that's going. So, yeah, it's just that 2 or 3. Same reasons you guys say.
Yeah. I think the next thing we want to do is get to – this is where, to me, do you agree this is where it starts to kind of open up? Like if it's like the NFL draft, they always say, well, the draft begins at 5. We knew 1, 2, 3, 4 where they were going to be. We knew 1, 2, 3 where we were going to go. I think we all kind of knew that was, but it starts at number 4 to me is where we kind of might start going in different directions. We'll do that right after you hear from our friends at Whataburger.
This isn't just any burger run. This is a burger run for Whataburger Sweet and Spicy Bacon Burger. 2 fresh all-beef patties with melty cheese, grilled onions, crispy bacon, and sweet and spicy pepper sauce. 1 for you, 1 for him, and 1 for your unofficial roommate, Brad. Always order an extra. For Brad. The all-time favorite sweet and spicy bacon burger from Whataburger. Just like you like it.
Green Light Dispensary, voted Kansas City's best dispensary and your go-to for quick, convenient service. With 4 locations across the Kansas City area, we're never far away. Our drive-through and express windows make it easy to get in, get out, and get on with your day. Our award-winning service is powered by a team of experts dedicated to making your experience seamless and enjoyable. It's no wonder we've been voted the best. Convenient locations, fast service, knowledgeable staff. That's the Green Light difference. Visit us today.
This episode of Kaufman Corner is brought to you by Frontier Justice, where freedom is a lifestyle grounded in safety, responsibility, and respect. With locations in Lee Summit, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, and Jenks, Oklahoma, Frontier Justice offers firearms retail, a premier indoor shooting range, and training all under one roof. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top-tier gear, and a strong sense of community. Faith, family, freedom. That's what Frontier Justice stands for. Visit frontier-justice.com to learn more.
All right, let's pick up the chase here at number 4. Les, where do you go at number 4?
I went with Hal, and you're good on Sal with me. You got me, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, so yeah, I went with Hal, and I know that you both are. I've got your list in front of me too, and you're kind of right there as well. For me, I mean, he was a doubles machine at 449. I mean, he's got the over 1,000 RBIs. He hit 293, but the factor for me is that I played outfield, and I'm not comparing myself to Hal McRae. He's infinitely greater of a hitter and player than I was. But my point is that I just love that hard nosed style. I mean, the way he went into bases, the way he played the outfield, the way he just got after it, and his attitude to go get it. He didn't let the game come to him. He went and got the game. And so those statistics that he put up, we can list. But for me, they're just hard fought. He was a leader. He was gritty. And he's a guy you'd want to go to war with all the time. So that's why I slid Hal into the 4 spot.
That's interesting. And you have him at number 4 as well, David.
Yeah. And I mean, all that Les said, but even just to add on to it, you talk about, and the game's changed quite a bit since Hal McRae was there, but there's a freaking rule that's in place because of Hal McRae. The reason that you can't go in, well, it's been expanded because of Chase Utley, but before that, the reason you couldn't go into second base the way Hal McRae did was the Hal McRae rule. Yeah. I mean, if you've got a rule named after you, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Like you said, Les, 449 doubles, 1,000 RBIs, 125 OPS plus, 125 weighted runs created plus. That actually matches up, which is rare. He was just a great hitter. And the other thing, because the game has changed, I think that those Royals teams had a little bit of an edge, and they had an edge. I mean, there were a lot of guys, but Hal McRae was the leader of that edge. And I think that it's funny because I think you talk to newer Royals fans and the younger Royals fans, and I'm kind of in the middle of the younger and older Royals fans. But the younger and newer ones, how can you put anybody over Alex Gordon or whoever? But you look at the impact of those teams. I mean, Hal McRae was with the Royals from 1970, 94, 3? And he came over from the Reds in 73 until 87. So he was there. He was a key piece of all those playoff runs. I don't know, just incredible player, incredible hitter. And again, he has a rule named after him. That's really cool. Everybody should strive to have a rule named after them.
And there's some black ink. Yeah, there's some black ink on his page too. I mean, he led the league in doubles twice. He led the league in RBIs with 133 at the age of 36. In 1982, he led the league in on base percentage and OPS in 1976. I mean, think about that, the spread that's there, and I think you guys hit on it. Like, I think he's 11th on the Baseball Reference WAR. There's 3 pitchers in front of him that make him the 8th, ranked guy by WAR amongst hitters. But it's the intangibles. Like, he brought the toughness and the edge. Hal McRae was the one that said, to hell with the Yankees. Like, we're not backing down to this team. Right? Like that, he really set the tone for the club. And that's why, for me, you guys have him at 4. I have him at 5. But like, I really like, well, where do you put a DH? And he was one of those, there's only a handful of guys that were like a career DH. Like, he had the knee injury when he was young. And so he didn't have all the athleticism, but to be that kind of hitter for that long is just amazing. And one of my favorite players. My second, as a kid growing up, Frank White was my number 1 favorite player. Hal McRae was my second favorite player. Just loved the way he brought it to the ballpark every day. I mean, just absolutely fantastic. I went with, and this will take us to where Les went at 5. At 4 for me, I went Salvador Perez. And my question to you guys is, how high up this list do we think Salvador Perez can get? Can he get in front of Amos Otis? Can he, I think if Bobby Witt were traded next year, he'd move up in front of Bobby. We're all projecting Bobby a little bit with the numbers, but where can Salvador Perez get to? I don't think he's going to take George Brett down, right? I don't think that's in the cards, but I think there's a pretty good chance he could be number 2 when it's all said and done. If he has a couple of more years like last year, Les, can you see him maybe ending up number 2 on this list?
I think you nailed it, Soren. I actually, on my list right here, I put Salvy's name and then an arrow upward, meaning that he can climb, and he can climb to 2. I mean, again, with his size and as long as he's been playing, you never know what's going to happen, and you never know what the Royals are going to use him. We've been talking about how Carter Jensen needs to catch more, and if we want a more productive offensive Salvy, he needs to rest a little bit. He needs to play some first base a little bit. He needs to DH a little bit. But if he continues to go as he's going, I could very well see him moving up to that number 2 slot. So I think you nailed it, and that's why he was 5 with the potential to 2. And I love those sliding scales because it makes me more interested in watching these games every year.
Yeah, for sure. Salvador Perez, you're not as high on, David. I'm not going to have you run him down, but is it the on base percentage? Is it the why have you made the mistake of not putting Salvador Perez as high as we have?
Well, because I'm an idiot is what it comes down to. I'll say it so you guys don't have to. No, I had Salvador Perez 6, and I really actually struggled with 5, 6, 7, to be completely honest. And I ended up putting Salvador Perez 6 because I started thinking about legacy as well. And going back to the point that I just made, Salvador Perez has not his fault, but has not played on a lot of winning baseball teams. Now, he's made up a lot of that by being a World Series MVP, so that he's one of 2 in Royals history, which, again, not his fault, but kind of like some of the other guys, they played on 6 playoff teams. I mean, that's a lot of runs. And when they weren't in the playoffs, they were in contention until second to last day or whatever it would have been. And they also would have been in more playoffs had there been more playoff teams back then too. So that's kind of where he fell for me. And yeah, I mean, there are flaws to his game, right? It doesn't get on base, not great at blocking pitches. He hasn't been a great pitch framer, although that's not going to be as important moving forward. So there are some flaws there. But also 5 Gold Gloves, 5 Silver Sluggers, 6, 1, 2, 3, 5. All-Star, all sorts of all these years, MVP votes. He was top 10 in 2021. Was that the 40? Yeah, 2021. It's a great player. And the other thing, and this is where I struggled so much: 303 homers, second in franchise history, 1,016 RBIs. That's second, right? Yeah, second in franchise history, just past Tom McRae this year.
Yep.
Okay, well, at this point, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he should be a little bit higher. And
you are, but it's okay.
Yeah,
it's fair. I like to be wrong. If I didn't, I wouldn't do it so often.
But I think it does speak to like we said, this is where we start branching off, right? And it gets harder. The good news for him, I think that we can't project. Like we're putting a lot of projection into Bobby Witt Jr. If this was like what you'd accomplish, Bobby wouldn't be on this list. Right. Mm-hmm. He's had an amazing year. It's kind of like, Al Cowan's great year where he finished like second in the MVP. We'd be like, okay, maybe he gets down towards the bottom. Like, God, what could have been, right? Type of thing.
He's actually 7th in Fangraphs WAR in franchise history. Bobby Witt is
already. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But Perez, I mean, like he just keeps going. Like that's the thing. It's like it's amazing that he had 3,900. I know the on base is down below. To me, Salvador Perez would be thought of higher. And I can't remember if we talked about this, but if Salvador Perez batted 6th or 7th, people would be talking about how great he is. The problem is the Royals need him to bat 4, and then everybody jumps on his on base percentage. But if you had a catcher that was 30 and, let's say it's 90, 30 and 85, lower in the lineup because he doesn't get as many opportunities because Bobby's not on right in front of him, but he was batting 6th or 7th, you'd be like, I mean, and they got Salvador Perez hitting 7th. Can you believe this lineup? And so to me, he's somewhat a victim of his own success that he's so good that he bats up that high. But Yadi Molina wasn't batting up where Salvador Perez is batting late in his career. That's his hero. And, so I think it's look, Salvador Perez at 6 is no slap in the face, right? It's no slap in the face. We're talking about the best of all time. All right. So 5, I got 4 with Salvador Perez, 5 for Les Norman. 5 for me is Hal McRae. You introduce a new player at number 5, David, that we haven't gotten to yet. Who do you have at number 5?
I have our friend Willie, who you can find in Surprise at spring training all the time. My parents go out there, and my dad sits and chats with them almost every game, and like 15-20 minutes. It's not even so. Great guy. Let's start with that. And
shot a 79 last week playing golf, by the way.
Did he really?
He did. He told me about it down at fantasy camp. I'm just he can still flat play with the stick.
He looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like he could steal a base. No, I had him. The offensive stats are not as good as most of the guys on this list, but look, I mean, 612 steals. That's especially for the era that he played. Those were even bigger than that. That was the game, and he was one of the best doing what people did at that time. Led the league in triples 5 times. Led the league in hits once. Won a batting title. If I asked you who had the highest batting average on the 85 World Series team, you'd say George Brett, and you'd be right. Second highest, though, Willie Wilson. He was 3 points behind George Brett in the 85 World Series. Just, I think, an incredible player, incredible defender. The fact that he was a left fielder, we had more about Amos Otis than him. I mean, I think a great player and really important to the franchise too. He's that guy.
Fielder. He was a center fielder as well. I mean, he
did a lot of
when Amos left, he moved over to center, and so he was in center field as well. And so I mean, he had center field ability. He won just the 1 Gold Glove, which he won in left field. But he
top 4 and he finished 4th in MVP in 1980. I mean, that's
well, and that
a top 5 finish.
And that year. Led the league in plate appearances, 745, at-bats, 705, runs, 133, hits, 230, triples with 15. You mentioned leading the league in triples 5 times. He led the league in triples with 15, 15, 21, 15, and 11 at triples. Led the league in stolen bases with 83 stolen bases. And David hit on it, Les. For me, it's capturing him in the era. Like, I think Joe Carter never gets the credit he deserves because people go to his on-base percentage. But Joe Carter played in an era where they told guys like him, get the bat off your shoulder and drive in runs.
Right.
I remember people, I've said it many times, criticizing Frank Thomas for not swinging more. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Willie Wilson was told, hit the ball and then run. Right?
Yes.
And so he did, because I wrestled with Willie where to put him on this list because stolen bases, have been found to be not worth near what they thought they were back in the day. That's why guys don't run like Willie did. But that was an era where they were considered really valuable. People wanted to stop him from running, and he ran, and he was amazing at doing it. And he really did. The Phillies in 1980 said the key to beating the Kansas City Royals is keeping Willie Wilson off base. And they frankly did it in it. But they talked about him as much as they did George Brett. So Willie deserves a ton of credit. I've got him at number 8 on my list, and I know you've got him at number 6, Les, on yours.
I do. Again, we talked about a lot. One of the greatest joys of my life is for that fantasy camp week a year is to see Willie. I mean, I see him occasionally, when he comes to Kansas City or at different events that we might do together. But to sit down with him and just talk about stolen bases, to sit down and talk about the transition that he had to hit in the big leagues. I mean, I think he started learning it in the minor leagues, but really the crux of him switch hitting was at his time in the big leagues, and to be able to do that, to learn how to do that, to use the turf to his advantage, to just hear the way he played and the intelligence behind it and the way he thought through the game. Willie Wilson was not just an amazing talent that could run, catch, and throw. I mean, he understood the game in a way and played the game to his abilities. He knew some of his limitations, but he turned them into strengths. And so I'm just fascinated. I admire him so much of his ability, both cerebrally and physically. So yeah, it's why I couldn't put him any lower than 6th.
Yeah, no, he's one of the greats for sure. All right, so he's 6 for you. Salvador Perez, we've talked about, is 6 for David Lesky. My number 6, I will introduce Carlos Beltran. I believe Carlos Beltran today is the most underrated Royal in their history, because he was Amos Otis, but with more power even. Mm-hmm. And I think that the part about Carlos Beltran that I think is underrated is his ability on the bases. Like, Carlos Beltran came in at a time when we were starting to go, okay, stolen bases aren't as important. My favorite stat from him is in 2001, he was 31 of 32 on the bases. Like, he was a guy that could steal a base when you needed him. And I remember a game that the Royals were losing 1-0. It was a makeup game from a rainout. The Diamondbacks came through town to play one makeup game. and Randy Johnson was on the hill, and the Royals couldn't do anything against him for 8 innings. And they got to the bullpen finally, and Carlos Beltran, can't remember if he got hit by pitch or walked, stole second, stole third, and came home on a sacrifice fly to tie the game, or even maybe that gave him the lead 1-0. I can't remember what it was, but the last run was all Carlos Beltran. It was, and he did it without even getting a hit. He was an underrated center fielder. He's the best that I've seen patrolling center field, and that may sound blasphemous to people who watch Lorenzo Cain. Carlos Beltran was better. Nobody was ever better at the wall than Carlos Beltran. Timing it perfectly, glide, so he didn't have to run so hard I get there and then I'm flailing around at the wall. He just always was going up the wall and meeting the ball at the highest point that he could get to. And people used to complain that he wasn't running hard because he made it look, he had Amos Otis in him like that. Carlos Beltran is close to being a Hall of Famer on his career. And he is a guy that could have been the second best player on this team and maybe even challenged George Brett for being the best player on this team if he'd stayed here. I got Carlos Beltran at number 6, and I think he deserves more credit than this town usually gives him.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
10. Oh, go ahead, Liz.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You have him on the list. I don't. I'll explain why, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
So I have him at 10, and I snuck him into the back half of the list, the bottom of the list, actually. And the reason, well, first of all, the iconic Carlos Beltran play, if you guys remember this, 2003, coming out of the All-Star break against the Mariners, Dan Wilson, that current Mariners manager, hits a fly ball to dead center field, and it was gone. And he climbed the wall, and it was a sold-out crowd because the Royals had come out of the break in first place, and they had a winning season for the first time in forever. He climbed the wall. That was the loudest I heard the stadium until 2013 and 2014 and 2015, those years. Wow. It was electric. I was there in the one of the top rows of the upper deck. And it was, sadly, that was one of my favorite moments of a Royals fan at that point, robbing a home run in July. But it was incredible. The reason that I don't have him higher is his time with the Royals was, I think, more good than great. It was trending toward great, but then they, screwed the pooch and lost him and had to trade him. But I mean, you look at the numbers, like a 110 weighted runs created plus in his time. He hadn't gotten to the point that he was going to be at yet. He was again, more good than great. Had he stayed, I think he would have been, like you say, 1, 2, 3, somewhere in that range. But also I did that average WAR thing. He's 4th, 35.4 just from his time with the Royals per 5,000 plate appearances. He only had 3,500 plate appearances because they traded him because they were stupid. This is not a Carlos Beltran complaint. This is a Royals complaint. Yeah. But that's why I had him down there. But yeah, 100%. He is, in my opinion, up until 2022, was the most talented player to ever play for the Royals. Yeah. He is now probably second most behind Bobby Witt.
There's nothing on a baseball field he couldn't do. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. And he held the record for stolen base percentage for a long time. I think he lost it as he got older and just was dropped a little bit in speed. And I think it took him a year to realize it because if I remember, I'm looking right now because I can't remember. Yeah, there was one year, it was in St. Louis. He was 13 of 19. And I think that was the year that it clicked. I probably shouldn't run as much. Yeah. And then he stopped.
Yeah. And he just missed for you, Les. How come?
Yeah, the only reason was just because they traded him away. I mean, this really broke my heart. It broke my fan heart that the Royals traded away. I mean, in my opinion, and this is no knock on AO or Willie, but if he was a career Royal, he would have been the best center fielder the Royals have ever seen. I truly believe, because you had talked about earlier how AO used to just glide. He didn't run. Beltran was the pure glider. I mean, the big knock on Chipper Jones when he was in the minor leagues and early in his big league career was, he's not trying. You can tell he's not hustling. That wasn't the case at all. It's just the way his body worked and the way Chipper Jones played. And Carlos Beltran was that very thing. I mean, I have a story I wrote in my book one time. I won't use that time here, but about Carlos and I were in a soft toss drill, and I was just soft tossing balls, and he was hitting balls at and over the monster in center field in spring training. just because of the way he used his hands and the backspin and the balance and the leverage through a ball. There's so much more to that story, but he was just incredible. The only reason he would have probably been 3 on my list, it was just premature that he left. And so again, I would have put him higher. I just left him off the list because I wanted guys that had been here the longest amount of time.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. So now we get to number 7. Les, we'll stay with you. This is where you've got one of the retired numbers making the debut. Frank White. Why Frank White here?
Yeah, I mean, I think he would have been higher in the list. I think I factored in there was a lot of strikeouts in that, and that's the only really negative. I mean, again, over 2,000 hits, 407 doubles. How do you argue with 8 Gold Gloves, 5 All-Stars, a Silver Slugger? I mean, that's really tough to do. I just think that there were some other guys that leapfrogged him. It wasn't any particular knock. I just felt like I was comfortable slotting him in at 7, just based on the offensive numbers. It probably came down a little bit because of the strikeouts for me, but overall, pure second baseman, one of the greats, and I just felt like he slotted here.
Okay, and he's on your list as well at number 8, David. He did not make my list. I'll say he's number 11 on mine, and he was at one point on my list 8, and then I ended up going, I mentioned Willie Wilson. I did kind of take some of the modern view of him, and the on base is not there. Like, if you look at it, Frank White came up today, he would not have had the career he had. He would have been replaced much earlier. But again, they wanted him to catch the ball, and he was tremendous. I mean, the best defensive second baseman I've ever seen, and he did hit cleanup in a World Series, right? So he's a pretty good player, but the modern game today, he wouldn't make it, David.
No, absolutely, he wouldn't. Well, he wouldn't make it if he was the same player. Would he be developed differently? I don't know. Maybe you're, yeah. And that was kind of where I landed. Was it's hard to judge a guy based on how they'd fit today, because maybe they'd just be different. But yeah, the 8 Gold Gloves got it for me. All-Star games, again, hitting cleanup in the World Series, that was a big deal. 20 plus home runs a couple times as a second baseman they were very rare in those days. Now it's not. Now it's pretty common. But I wonder a little bit too how much people ding him because of what's happened since his playing days. And I think that you can't ignore the fact that there's some criticism. I mean, if you want to talk about his whole life, maybe he's off my list. There have been some issues with the Royals, but as a player, I had him at 8. But I also think it kind of goes with the whole idea. I had him. I could have had him anywhere from 8 to like 13 or 14, and you just have to make a decision at some point and put a guy somewhere, basically. But I mean, his numbers on the Hall of Fame for a reason, and just he had a heck of a career.
Yeah, he did. So then number 7 for you, David, we get a new and one of the modern players, shall we say. Who do you have at number 7?
I have Alex Gordon. But kind of similar to Frank White career-wise, better hitter. Frank White was he had in his career, he had an 84 weighted runs created plus. Gordon was at 102, so 18% better, so a lot better hitter, I guess. But I look at 8 Gold Gloves again. Finished his career with 4 straight. The bat, it slipped after the injury. He just never rebounded, and he had a couple moments in 18 and 19 where he was useful. But I don't know, just his play in left field. I think he and James Shields deserve the lion's share of turning that team around. And I mean, Gordon was already here, and so there's an argument to be made that, hey, he was here for 6 years before the 2013 season. Why didn't he do it before? He was so instrumental in kind of being similar to Hal McRae, but in a different way, like the embodiment of that team and those teams in the mid 2010s. And plus, I mean, the numbers were there, right? He had 190 home runs. What is that in franchise history now? I think it's 5th or 4th. I can't. It's Brett, Salvy, Sweeney, AO, and Brett and Gordon. So 5th in home runs. He led the league in doubles in 2012. We all remember, I'm going to dominate next year. Okay, sure. and then he dominated the next year. Big credit to Ned Yost for saying, "Hey, this is a leadoff guy," because I think that revitalized his career. I mean, he was hitting third before he moved up to first, but it's just a really good career. And to be completely honest, one of my personal favorites. So that's how he got in there.
And you've got him just a little bit lower, Les.
Yeah, I mean, I had him at 8th, but again, it's no knock. I'm kind of in that zone on my list now. Where
the guy who's going to knock him, it's apparently going to be me because he's not on my list. So
yeah,
that's embarrassing.
I understand. I kind of have those pockets where there's a group of 3 that it could be interchangeable and all that. The stats take care of themselves. The 8 Gold Gloves. Almost every time I see him, I'm like, thanks for making me look bad. Where you started as a third baseman and then won 8 Gold Gloves, and I've been playing outfield since I was about 6. So thanks for that, AG. But the fact that he started as a third baseman and struggled, and all the media pressure and the public pressure that was heaped upon him, and matching his name with George Brett, and to be able to make that transition, his work ethic on the field, diet, exercise, strength conditioning, all those things, all the way through his entire career was truly amazing. So I didn't have a problem putting him on my list for those reasons, understanding what he went through in the public eye, and then what he turned himself into with hard work. It was a no-brainer to have him on my list. I just popped him in at 8.
Well, I guess I'm the guy without a brain because he didn't make my list, but he didn't miss by much. And I guess the reason I can't get out those early years. There were a lot of years where they really weren't getting anything from him. And maybe I'm dinging him because he was the number 2 overall pick and he didn't end up being just a pure superstar. He ended up being a very good player for the Royals. There's no doubt about it. But his career was over at 36, and the last year wasn't very good. So the beginning and the end aren't that great. The longevity's not that great. Tremendous player. Everybody would love to have Alex Gordon on their team. There probably isn't a championship team that wouldn't have a spot, either left or right field, I think he could play on probably any world championship team. So that speaks to how good a player he was, but he wasn't the guy, right? And so that I kept coming back to. I'm just going to say it. I thought the defense was a little overrated. Like, I thought him at the wall was not so hot, but he was the first guy that really blossomed under the new, analytics view of your defense. If he had played left field years before, he wouldn't have won a Gold Glove, right? But it was all the analytic numbers.
Well, they also didn't give Gold Gloves to left fielders.
Well, that's
it was
true.
Just an outfielder Gold Gloves, so that helped him too.
Yes, and when they'd give it to 3 center fielders, he wouldn't have gotten those Gold Gloves. No. And for me, I kind of yearn for that. I think, like, your best guy's playing in center field. So there are a lot of things about his career that his timing was really good for him to benefit. But he was a really, really good player. I mean, if I kept ranking, I'd probably have him 12th, right after Frank White at 11. So, and I know people aren't going to like it that I don't have him on there because, hey, we won a championship with him. Frank, we won a championship with. But I tried to drill down. He just comes up a little bit short for me. Because of that. I've got at number 7, because we've done Frank. My number 7 was Mike Sweeney. And I think if Carlos Beltran is not the most underrated Royal, it's Mike Sweeney. And Mike Sweeney carries the burden of having played on teams that weren't very good. But I don't know that – I know no one appreciated and valued what Mike Sweeney did for this team when he was here. His numbers are amazing, right? He had some of the most amazing George Brett-esque hitting seasons that this franchise has ever seen. And I'm not sure why. I know why, because they were losing. And so everybody didn't want to, give any credit to him. But I mean, listen to these numbers. I mean, he batted what, 340, 333. He had a year where he had 46 doubles and 29 home runs, 44 doubles, 22 home runs. I mean, his overall career OPS is 851, and that's a back injury that robbed him of all his power. Had he not had the back injury, we'd be talking about him being number 2 on this list. But his zenith. Like, that's right. He was kind of the anti-Alex Gordon. Alex Gordon was a really good player for a number of years. Mike Sweeney was the bomb for like 4 years. And so that's why he's clear up there for me. Who had him next highest?
I had him 9th.
I didn't have him.
You didn't have him. Okay. So you're on board with him at 9, Les. I mean, you're pretty impressed as well.
Yeah, and I think he also could have been a 2 or 3 because of the back injury, but I would also factor in the first couple of years he got to the big leagues, Muser kind of ticked him off. And you know, I believe he I don't know the exact words. I think it was Muser maybe, but it was something along the lines of, well, at least I think Mike was told by somebody just that he wasn't going to hit, that he would be like maybe a 220, 230 hitter. Again, I can't remember who the quote was. I believe I got that right. But regardless of that, you know, Mike in his first couple of years, I think was a strider a little bit and just was getting beat by balls, and then made the adjustment of going to the no stride and fanning out, and it helped him see the ball better. That is a hard thing to do with big league pitching. I mean, it is really hard to do. And I don't know that anybody told Mike that. I think he might have made that adjustment on his own, or maybe someone had a little bit of it, but Mike took it upon himself to allow him to give him a chance to see the ball a little bit better. And then from that moment, he started to hit the balls hard. He started to hit sliders and curveballs hard. He was able to get his timing better. And, you know, the guy worked hard. Like you said, he had the back injury and all that. So he's only down on the list for me because of the early complications to getting adjusted to big league pitching with some kind of stride and the off timing, and then the back injury. So could have been a 2 or 3.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't have him. Why, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, he's in that group.
Why do you hate? Why must you hate, David? Why?
Well, it's because he wronged me once. I actually, I have a great Mike Sweeney story that has nothing to do with Mike Sweeney. Do you remember? I don't know if they still do it. That they used to have people like selling newspapers on opening day.
Yeah.
For donations.
Yep.
I've told this story on 810 before. But I was in high school in 2002 or 3. I can't remember what year it was. Skipped school to go to opening day. Sold papers, and I told a woman I was Mike Sweeney to get a donation.
Nice.
She was like 114 and was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, that's horrible.
$20.
Yeah,
it is horrible. It's horrible.
But for a good cause.
It was for charity. That's why I felt okay about it. I was also like 17.
I mean, she didn't eat that night, Les, but you know, at least went to charity.
Whatever. It's not my fault. Well, it is my fault, 100%. But no, he was in that 7 to 12, 13 range for me that could have gone anyway. The issue that I had, and it goes back to the era dependent. There is one piece of black ink on his baseball reference page, and it's hit by pitch in 2000. All those phenomenal stats, the league was hitting so much that you have to ding it just a little bit.
That's
mean,
fair.
Like 930 OPS in 2000 was a 131 OPS plus. I haven't looked. I'm going to look real quick because I'm curious now what a 131 OPS plus looked like in 2025, because it was not that. Well, I think Bobby Witt was pretty close to that. Bobby Witt was at 136 at an 852 OPS plus, or 852. His 136 OPS plus at 852. So that was where I ended up pushing him down a little bit, just because he didn't lead the league ever in anything except for hit by pitch once. But a truly great hitter. And I mean, it was one of those situations that when Mike Sweeney was up, you knew he was going to do something. You 100% knew. I was actually in Chicago on a family vacation when the Royals were in Chicago, and he broke the Royals record for most consecutive games with an RBI. He just knew he knew he was going to drive the run in somehow. Incredible hitter, incredible guy. All of that. He just missed. But I mean, if you caught me on a different day making the list, he could have been 7 pretty easily. So It's not, he was in that range.
Oh, that's the point of the exercise. It shows us just how hard it is to narrow it down, right?
Definitely.
I mean, that's a big part of what we're doing here. All right, at 8, Les had Alex Gordon, Frank White for David. I had Willie Wilson, so we have no new names there. 9 for Les is Mike Sweeney. 9 for David, we got a new name, John Mayberry.
John Mayberry, yeah.
Why John Mayberry?
Big John. He was an incredible hitter. I mean, you want to talk about black ink? Mayberry had some. He walked, not a ton. He led the league in on base percentage in 1973. Led the league in OPS plus in 1975. He had more more walks than strikeouts with the Royals. I don't know. I think he did that in his career too, his whole career. But 561 walks to 457 strikeouts in his career while hitting for power. And you talk about OPS plus and weighted runs created plus. The second best weighted runs created plus in franchise history belongs to John Mayberry. Not George Brett, not Bobby Witt Jr., not Hal McRae, John Mayberry. By that stat, and there are others, obviously, he is the second best offensive player in franchise history. And I couldn't leave that off my list because it's just too good.
122 walks to lead the league in 73, 119 in 75. By the way, I think he's 10 on my list. Yeah, he's number 10 on my list. You mentioned the 168 OPS plus. 100, for people that don't know that number, 100 means your average. So he's 68% better than the average player. That's just a huge number. It's up there, finished second in an MVP. I mean, yeah, the numbers are amazing. And I think you hit upon it, unless you know this, like today's game, they strike out more because they're willing to strike out to try to hit the ball hard. The game when John played was strikeouts are bad. Don't do it. You're shunned if you strike out. So he didn't strike out. This is, again, I wonder what he would have been with today's hitting approach. Hey, John, go ahead, hit the home runs. We don't care if you strike out. And he unleashed that power that he clearly was holding back somewhat to have the frequency of contact, and just had a great eye. I'm not saying that he would have hit 70 home runs, but in today's game, with today's approach put in his hands with his skills, I mean, I think he'd be even more amazing than those numbers are.
Yeah, thank you both now for listening to your arguments, and now I feel horrible that I kept him off of my list. He probably should have slid in at number 10.
How do you think I feel about Alex Gordon?
I understand, yeah.
I mean,
embarrassed, right?
Yes. If you ask, and as you look at those home run stats, you just asked John Mayberry, if you look at those home runs, 2 of those home runs got rained out that he didn't get back. So add 2 to that list.
Yeah. He remembers.
That's a fair.
He does.
He remembers.
You know who I think he would have been? Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're looking at for a guy like John Mayberry. Didn't have the average so much, but I mean, he had the power. He hit the ball hard. We didn't have exit velocities to look at, but I guarantee you he would be 90th percentile.
Yeah, he was a really, really impressive player, and he was probably at the heart of them becoming a real contender. Because he was up and running when George got up, and really gave the bat that really probably was the protection that allowed George to flourish and become the hitter that he ultimately ended up being. I've got a new name at 9. I've got Danny Tartable. And I know this will be not liked by many, but I don't think people realize just how good Danny Tartable was. It was kind of just a little snapshot. The Royals got him at just the right time. Scott Bankhead for Danny Tartable was the deal to bring him over from Seattle. He had hit 25 home runs in Seattle, and for the Royals, he would OPS 931, 884, 809, 814, and did the 990 without. That was his last year. 990. His last year with a 593 slug and a 397 on base when he hit 30 home runs for the second time for the Royals. Salvador Perez and Bobby Witt are the only other 2 players, right, with multiple 30 home run seasons. Danny Tartable did it back when it was really hard, to do it. When again, that wasn't necessarily the focus. He would translate perfectly into today's game. I've got him at number 9, and I know he was on your others receiving votes, David, but didn't crack the list.
He is the best right-handed hitter in franchise history, maybe the best hitter, best pure hitter. You want to talk about? I said John Mayberry was the second best. Danny Tartable was the best. 145 weighted runs created plus. That's 45% above average as a Royal.
Wow,
better than Brett, better than everybody.
Again, we didn't have the downslope of. When we preface this about George.
Right.
George played it into his 40s, and so his numbers came down. He still won a batting title at 38, I think.
Yeah,
I think he's still the
3
oldest.
different decades.
Yeah, 3 different decades. Right. I think he might still be the oldest to ever win a batting title. So it wasn't like George sucked at the end, but as age, he was still even his last year, I was like, he's retiring. Why would he retire? But his numbers did come down. So when we say this, these guys that were just getting a snapshot of their prime of their career, the Beltrons, the Tartables, the Mayberries in a Royals uniform, I just want to point that out as to why if you're like, where the hell is George? Those numbers are crap. No, you just got to understand the context.
Yeah.
And that's totally fair. But yeah, Danny Tartable to me, and he was growing up, I was born in 85 and I missed the peak of George Brett. I missed that. And I was a little kid and Danny Tartable was fun to watch. I called him Danny Tartable. I couldn't say his name and loved him, wanted to wear number 4. And then I learned about George Brett when I turned 5 and thought, oh yeah, I'm stupid. George Brett's my favorite player. But he is criminally underrated for his time with the Royals. Just an incredible hitter. To get him for Scott Bankhead. I mean, sorry, Scott Bankhead, but like Danny Tartable's better than you. I'm sorry. Great trade, great player. I wish they could have kept him a little bit longer because if they have Danny Tartable on the 93 team, they might make the playoffs.
I think the one other thing that I would say is so people understand how good he was when he left and went to the Yankees. I'm pretty sure they made him the highest paid player in baseball.
That sounds right.
It was a contract. It was an amazing, this huge deal that the Royals just had, no chance of matching.
$5.3 million. I just looked it up. Which at that time, Barry Bonds got in the first year at least.
Yeah.
Barry Bonds, I think Bonds was higher. I think he was the highest paid in the American League.
Okay.
Because I think Bonds got, if I remember correctly, $7 and like $43 million from the Giants, from the Pirates, and Danny Tartable was second highest.
Yeah, the deal because he made it looks like it was maybe like 4 for like 20, but it was plus signing bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
It was he was considered the best hitter.
Oh, here it is. 5 years, $25.5 million. Yeah. Second highest paid in baseball behind Bobby Bonilla, actually. Sorry, not Barry Bonds. I guess Bonds hadn't signed yet.
Yeah, the infamous Bonilla contract. With the Mets. Yeah, very good. All right, and number 10, we've got a new hitter because Carlos Beltran is 10 for David. I've got John Mayberry at number 10. We've covered them. You have somebody else cracking the list at number 10. Who do you got, Les?
Yes, and it's Billy Butler, only because of the massive amount of stolen bases he had over his career.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy could fly. He had 5. So look, I know that I'm probably going to get laughed at a little bit on this one, and that's okay. I can take it, but I'm not always the numbers guy. You guys know this, the analytics side, but I mean, I love the fact that he had an 808 OPS, 449 slug, hit 295 for his career. And, Big Country Breakfast was a good combination of power and average, but he didn't hit the tower. I mean, he hit some towering moonshots, but this guy could really make a ball backspin. He had a lot of line drives. He had a lot of good at-bats, tough at-bats. And for a big guy, he has some of the fastest, strongest hands that I think I've seen, over 1,200 hits. I just put him in there. If I had never watched him in person hit, I might have gone back and put him maybe, on this other list, and maybe a Beltran would have been in there. Maybe a Mayberry would have been in there. But I just feel like Billy got a lot of big hits. I feel like he was a great combination of power and average. And just watching him play so much, maybe I was just at the right games at the right times, but he had some really tough at-bats, good hits, combined with, again, the 1,200 hits, good amount of home runs. I just feel like Billy was in my 10 slot.
Yeah. He was a 3-win player twice, as a DH. That says something. How close was Billy to making your list, or just your thoughts on Billy, David?
Yeah, I mean, he was just outside that 7 to 12 to 13 range for me. He was kind of there with this might sound blasphemous, but kind of around the Freddie Patek range, just missing that group that I was considering, which I guess means I considered him if he's in that range. But he was kind of a perfect Kauffman Stadium hitter. Also one of those guys, he plugged a gap, get a double. If he had more speed, he would have been really perfect. But you're right, he did have 5 steals, so maybe I'm underselling his base running ability. Only caught 3 times, but yeah, he was one of my favorites to watch because it was just so technically sound. I feel like, and just a really nice swing. And you talk about lefties have the prettiest swings. Billy Butler had a really pretty swing, and a lot of righties don't. So he was there. The reason he didn't make it just because there was no defensive value, and he didn't have the impact that Hal McRae did. That Hal McRae got so high without any defensive value. And I also think the drop off probably skewed a little bit in my mind because he struggled in 13 and 14. But I don't know that the Royals make the playoffs in 2014 without Billy Butler, because if you guys remember, Eric Hosmer got hurt. I believe it was the night of the trade deadline, and the deadline had passed like 3 hours earlier. And so they couldn't go out and get anybody. So Billy Butler played first base through August of 2014.
Yep.
And hit well. I don't know that they make the playoffs in 2014. And if they don't make the playoffs in 2014, do they have that chip on their shoulder in 2015? I mean, it's the butterfly effect, but really important to that team and just one of the best hitters in franchise history.
I'm going to bring up some numbers here. His season, that best season that he had, where at the age, I forgot to put in age. I wanted to get the age factor in it. It's bringing it up, and so I gotta go back and let me do it. How old was Billy in that year that he had 20 homers and 50 doubles?
Oh, the 20 and 50 was 2009, and he was 23 then. And then his best year was 2012 when he was 26.
So if you go, let's see, we'll go 15 to 23, and I'm going to add this in here. And so he had that year where he had 20 home runs, he had 50 doubles, he had a 300 batting average, he had a 360 something on base. I just put in 20 homers, 50 doubles, 300 batting average, 350 on base, just a raw rounded numbers, and do it before the age of 23. You know who joins him on that list? 5 players going up by home runs: Hank Greenberg, Miguel Cabrera, Rafael Devers, Alex Rodriguez, and Albert Pujols. At that time, and there's something, if you bump it up, there's a way. I think Rogers Hornsby was on this list. If it's just 20 and 50 under a certain, like Hornsby got there, like Grady Sizemore's there. I can't remember, if you play with the numbers, you those guys pop up. It was just an amazing list of people to be able to do that young. I mean, it speaks to how good a hitter he was. I mean, he was a tremendous. Yes, he really was a probably now considered he's underrated in his ability to hit. So I'm glad we got to talk about him. I'm glad Les put him on there.
I am too. His defense in left field, though, was the absolute highlight of a terrible.
Fault.
It's not his fault. This is the same as the Beltran thing. It's the Royals' fault, not his fault.
Yeah.
But those few games in 2007, it was a bad year to watch.
Yeah.
Those were the highlights.
Yeah.
Because they were fun.
Yeah.
Not for him, probably.
I remember somebody in the organization telling me, I'm like, come on, Billy in left field. They're like, well, we're kind of thinking, like Manny Ramirez, -1 defense, but +2, hitting. I'm like, okay, let's see how that goes.
-1, how many times?
Yeah, it did not go well. Real quick, any parting shot here that you want to add from doing the exercise, or anything you learned, David? Anything jump at you?
One other name that we didn't mention, Lorenzo Cain, numbers wise, fits in way better than I think people might realize. Okay. I did that average WAR. He was 10th. He was 10th in Royals history. The WAR per 5,000. He was 2nd in Royals history.
Yeah,
2nd behind Bobby Witt. It's Witt, Cain, Brett. A lot of it was defense, obviously, but Lorenzo Cain was a really, really good Royals player who I think his time passes is going to be forgotten a little bit and should not be.
Okay. Anything you want to throw out there on our way out the door, Les?
Yeah, just that this was a really fun thing. I'm glad that we did this and we're continuing to do this. It's a blast to be able to do this.
Yeah, we're going to do pitching around another holiday. Figure out when we'll do that, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun to do, but it just makes me realize how good of a history the Royals have as players. And I just look at it and feel like they should have won more than they did. But, and again, I'm not assigning any blame to that. That can be another show later on. But it's just, I'm looking at this list. I'm like, man, the Royals have really had some phenomenal players on the offensive side. Well, pitching, we'll get there. But it's amazing.
It'd be nice if they get a few of them at the same time.
Yes, that's probably the better point. Yeah.
That would be nice to add. I'll throw in one name that I would encourage Royals fans, younger Royals fans, to go look at Freddie Patek's career.
Yeah.
Because Freddie, first of all, is a hell of a guy. Listed at 5'5", played shortstop.
Listed.
You listed. He was a 3-time All-Star, finished top 10 in MVP. He is one of only a couple of guys to have 2 home runs as an opponent at Fenway Park. I can't remember what the stat was, but he had 2 home runs in a game at Fenway Park. He did that as a member of the Angels, I think, at the very end of his career. But Freddie was another of those guys that in the era that they asked him to do, 50 stolen bases a couple of times, 30 many, many, many times, doubles, triples, and a really good defender. I put a plug in for looking up Freddie Patek's career because
number 6 in the MVP vote in 1971.
Yeah. Pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good. Great exercise. It's a lot of fun. Well, like I said, we're going to do it with pitching as well. Les, I'm glad we got everything figured out and got you in here. I would hate to have done this without you. We were worried because we had some technical problems to get things started. So I'm glad you're in here. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. It's Thanksgiving for everybody out there. It will be Thanksgiving for us before long. So we're certainly thankful for all the folks that listen to the Kaufman Corner podcast and to all our great sponsors. You can support the Kaufman Corner podcast by supporting our sponsors like Frontier Justice, locations in Lee Summit, KCK, Jenks, Oklahoma. Whether you're new to shooting or a seasoned pro, you'll find expert staff, top gear, and a strong sense of community. Find them online at frontier-justice.com. Our friends at Whataburger, they're open 24 hours a day, 11 p to 11 p, to 11 a, serving breakfast. Get out there and check out the new Bacon Wrangler Double, the sweet and spicy bacon burger. There are a couple of the special burgers that are there. My favorite, the Patty Melt. You can get it at Whataburger, proud sponsor of the Kaufman Corner podcast. And our friends at Greenlight Dispensary, 15 locations in Missouri. More on the way. Greenlight, your go-to for all cannabis needs. Tell them you heard about it right here on the Kaufman Corner podcast. For our buddy David Lesky, for Les Norman, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.